Hello there, my name's Steve, and you are listening and tuned into the Go Footballing Podcast. So, this is the podcast where we talk all about grassroots football, whether you are a coach, a player, parent, referee, just got a love for the game, sit tight, you're in the right place. So this week, something again that I've not covered before, and to be honest, I'm surprised that I've not covered this one before. We're going to be thinking about some of the unsung heroes of grassroots football, which is the football coach, obviously the football coach. So we're going to be diving into what they do, why they do it, and all the additional things they do, which a lot of people generally don't see. So let's cue the whistle and let's get into it. So before we do get started, please head over to Lacey's. Look, the football season's about to start. There is still time to get your products before the season starts. If you've got little ones that are constantly tying shoelaces, or it's going to get wet, it's going to get horrible as well, they're always going to be coming undone. Go and get some products that they've got. Okay, they do the bands that are on the feet. You've probably seen them on Dragon's Den before. And they've also got a load of other great products that are there. So yeah, head over to lace.com. The link is in the bio, but when you get there and when you're about to check out, just use the code GOFOOTBALLPOD and you'll get 10% off. Can't say any better than that. But now let's cue the whistle again. Let's get into the episode. So we're going to be talking about grassroots coaches today. So we've done the referees, we've done the parents, we've done some of the players, we've done some of the silly things last week that people always comment. By the way, some of the comments that we got from last week, people emailing in or messaging on some of the socials, it's been crazy, really. I think that some people may have messaged me in, and they may have been the people that wrote the post that I read out as well. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but no, at least they were interacting and they were actually talking about the things that we were saying, which was all those crazy bits, really, wasn't it? It's all those things that shouldn't really be getting said on a forum. You know, like what kind of boots or what colour boots do my 9-year-old need to get scouted in and things like that. I mean, oh come on, honestly, that is crazy. So, look, thanks for going back and listening to that episode. But I think there's always going to be at least one thing that kind of got missed out, and it's always kind of the same people that get missed out. And, you know, they're the ones that put in a lot of effort. Now, I understand, look, at a club, there's a lot of people putting a lot of effort in. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things. There's people that are working in safeguarding. There's people sorting out when the referees getting there. There's people that are sorting out the pitches. But you know, one thing that binds all of this together, and it cannot happen without these people, are the football coaches that are turning up every single week to a group of children that they probably, you know, sometimes they probably didn't even know them. And they just kind of turn up and they take absolutely everyone in to go and learn how to play football or to be able to coach them, to be able to bring them into a team, to make them feel like they've got some kind of worth to it. So I thought today's episode would have been nice to just give everyone that maybe doesn't do this and maybe isn't a football coach, or, you know, maybe a partner of a football coach, maybe give them a little bit of recognition for all the good and the hard work that they do. Because, you know, a lot of people, I think what they do is when people take out coaching and they've not been involved in grassroots football in any kind of major capacity where they've been the coach, maybe they've had like other kids at other clubs or groups, maybe they were part of grassroots football a while ago. I think a lot of people think that with grassroots football, you are going to be doing it for an hour a week for training and an hour at the weekend for game time. Now, anyone that ever thought that as a football coach realised very quickly that that is not the amount of hours. It's almost like a full-time job, right? When you have to go through everything that you have to do, there's just so much that's also going on. You know, turning up to training. Okay, so a lot of coaches, they do a lot of planning. There's hours spent in training sessions, setting up drills, setting up practices, thinking about what each player needs, thinking about how they're going to make the kids enjoy their sessions, making sure they get everything right. Where I think that some coaches go wrong is they probably overplan a little bit, but that's not because they're bad. That's because they are trying very, very hard to give every child that turns up to a grassroots session everything they need in those sessions. You know, and I think that the amount of hours that they do when they started off and what they thought that they were going to be doing is massively different to what they are going to be doing when they're there. Because, you know, you got to think 1 hour a week, is that all it is? Well, do you know what? For some parents that are dropping their kids off and dropping their players off, or for some players to turn up, that's probably what they see. But there's so much more goes on with coaches. You know, during the season, there's a lot of things going on during the season that that people don't always see. But there's a lot of things outside of the season that also happens. We've just had the off season. We're just about to kick off with the new 25-26 season. And what we would say, actually, just going back to referees hat on, just go back, there's been a load of rule changes, especially for the older age groups. And there's a lot of other changes that are coming up now as well. So, go back onto those previous episodes and just listen to some of those as well. But, it's not just all about football, for grassroots coaches. A lot of grassroots coaches, they are providing a lot more than what people would probably expect. I think that they are giving like a bit of a shoulder to lean on for a lot of players, whether or not they're giving up on confidence, or it's a shy 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, or helping teenagers through like difficult patches at school, and just being like a real positive role model. If you think about coaches, they all almost kind of like the teachers. They're kind of those kind of people, and a really, really good coach can have a massive impact on a child's life, looking after them from 8 years old. And there are going to be some players that do stay with that one coach, and the one coach will do from under 8 to maybe under 15s, under 16s, where it goes to more open ages and, GCSEs and all that change, that things at that top end. But could be with that coach for, like say 6, 7, 8, 9 maybe years, depending on when they started and when they finish up. So yeah, absolute positive role model to see them pretty much on a weekly basis in the kind of trust of a coach, been helping them all the way through, because they're always going to remember them probably from when they were at 8 years old, of like how they made them feel, how they made them, gave them confidence, how they gave all of those things. I think it's really, really good. And look, obviously, families have their own role models in there, but it's nice to have role models outside of that too. And I think that anyone that's involved in coaching, and any football coach, will also understand that they are a bit of a role model to a lot of the children that are there, which is why I get so frustrated when some coaches are screaming and shouting at kids and things like that, because that they're looking up to you. You just need to be giving them all that. And I know I keep talking about it all the time as well, like positive reinforcement and making them feel good about being there, and, making sure that they're included, and the inclusion of all of the things that they're doing are all there too. But I think there's so many things that parents don't see. One thing that parents definitely don't see, they don't see the late nights that coaches are putting in there, of making up session plans, making sure they're fun, searching through different social medias, looking for practices and drills, and why are coaches doing all of these things? They're not doing it just for their own health as well, but they're doing it because they actually care. They care about their team, they care about the players that are there. And that's why I think that so many coaches, are probably undervalued quite a lot. And I think that a lot of coaches, they also have a lot of personal sacrifice. And that's sometimes not seen. And a lot of people don't always see that too. If you think about the personal sacrifice, I've just mentioned there, up all night, looking for practices and things like that, before they started as coaches, they may have not joined all of these additional groups where they get pings coming through all the time. They might not have been part of that grassroots community, and now all of a sudden they're part of that grassroots community. And when you're in there, you're kind of in there as well. You see a lot of things that are going on. There's a lot of comments flying around, which is why I got so much content for last week, really, just on what a lot of coaches, parents, and everyone that are always putting on social media. So, yeah, I think that there's definitely some massive sacrifice they make too. But, they're making a sacrifice towards their own families. They give up their weekends. They stand in the cold, wet fields. I understand that parents do that too. But a lot of the time, they're still doing that whilst everyone's still in bed. And the coaches, they don't have an option at the weekend, whereas sometimes parents can maybe sometimes have the option. If the coach decides, I can't go today, and they can't find someone to go and fill that space in, well, kind of the whole team don't get to play, and they don't get to go to a game. They don't get to have a training session. They don't get to have any of those things. When the coach is on holiday, sometimes it's coaches on holiday. Is anyone else going to step in, and is anyone else going to come and help? Sometimes, but not always. But I can guarantee that if there is someone that steps in, and there is someone that comes in there, I guarantee that coach has spoken to that person way in advance to go in there and run that session and try to help out there too. They also, listen, this is another thing that coaches do a lot of, okay? So many coaches do this, and I've been guilty of doing this too. We spend our own money on things like equipment, cones, bibs. Obviously, it costs petrol to get places, and especially if you're a coach that doesn't coach a child of your own in the team, and you're turning up for everyone else's kids, you're spending so much of your own money on these different things. And that includes researching things like apps. There's things, I know a lot of people will use the FA portal, but there's so many other good ones out there. And by the way, I'm open for sponsorship if any of them want to come in and say that. But, there's so many of these that are just, they're going to be doing all the research of looking at all of these things. And they're trying to juggle everything themselves. They're trying to juggle their own family time, their own kids, their jobs. They're still trying to give the children everything and a chance to play, and they're trying to give all of the kids the right, the right training facilities. They're trying to give them absolutely everything. And when we're saying that coaches are up all night, honestly, I'm on a couple of WhatsApp groups with coaches, and they ping constant, especially when it gets near a weekend, and then looking for games or someone to fill something in, or there's something happening, or they're doing all the confirmations for the games. Um, for many parents, they won't know that what you need to do after a game, for example. So after a game on the actual FA's portal, you've got to go in there and you've got to record that you've had a game. And do you know what happens if you don't record it all properly? And this includes things like marking the referee. This includes marking the pitch, what facility, what mark you will give the facilities, the spectators, the other coaches, the players that are on the pitch. There's a number of things that they've got to kind of cover off and fill all the paperwork out. I understand that some people think, oh, it takes 5 minutes and stuff like that, but coaches are really thinking about it's still something they've got to do, which everyone's at home, they've got their feet up, or they're taking, their kid, they picked them up after the game, they're taking them off, they're doing whatever. Coaches have still got to go and do that. And the consequences of that is that the club will get fined, which means that is why subs sometimes go up. If coaches can't fill those things out, they get to big fines. And also when they're looking at getting players and making sure they've got players there, they are the ones that are the most worried when it comes around to game time, when they are saying, is everyone available? Because they know that if they haven't given enough time and enough notice to the other team that they can't go, again, fine to the club. Who's going to pay for that? Well, it's not going to be the coaches, obviously. It's going to be the club, but the club's going to be taking that money generally from subs or other forms of income, which affect everyone. So it's really important you do that. But no one worries more about have we got enough players than the coach. And they are probably looking at it all week. I know that people probably think they're not looking at it all week, but they definitely are looking at it from 2 weeks. I've only got 5 players. I've only got 6 players, got 9 players now. I need at least 2 more to turn up just so we can kick off properly. So they're thinking of all those things. And it never switches off for a coach. I would say personally that most coaches probably spend about between 6 and 8 hours a week outside of the coaching time, outside of the planning sessions, outside of game time and things like that. But look, a lot of coaches do a lot of great things as well. And, when we're saying that they are unsung heroes, they really are unsung heroes. They give everyone a chance to be able to play. They sort things out like tournaments. They're always looking at things for travel. They're looking at things like kit to make sure that everyone feels part of the team. They're generally chasing up other people inside the club too, for things like, have we got a referee this weekend? What pitch are we going to be on? What time can we do this? What time do we do that? If it's an away game, they're generally going to be getting travel directions. They're going to be putting all the information out. They probably the most vocal people on the WhatsApp groups that you've got for your clubs and your teams is probably going to be the coach. And they're probably asking questions, and they just need that little bit of interaction, because that's the things they need to sort out. And until they can sort it out, it's still a task that's undone. So well done, coaches, for doing all of that. But, for some children, the coach is like maybe the first person outside of the family who believes in them. And a lot of coaches really believe in their kids that are playing. They really believe in their teams, and they really want to give them absolutely everything. And that's why sometimes you see some coaches get a little bit animated, and when they are getting a little bit animated, it's because they care. They're not just there for other reasons. They generally care about the kids that they're coaching, the team that they've put out. They generally have a vested interest in those teams. And yeah, it might be because they've got a child that plays in those teams, but overall, I would say that almost all of them really care about the teams that they're part of. And the other things that they do, like, oh gosh, coaches, you do so much for your teams that, it'd be nice. And I do see this on social media sometimes, is that some parents will come on to some of the platforms, and they'll be asking what are great coaches' presents for the end of year. And I think that's really good. And there's loads of good parents. And this is not a dig at any parents or anything like that. But, your coaches are probably doing a lot more for the team than you realise. The coaching sessions don't just pop up overnight. There's no way you can just go and just get a whole session. for week after week after week after week, and especially for your age group and for your children to make sure everything is in place for all of that team. It doesn't exist. They're probably writing it down. They've probably got their own little book at home. It's probably the only book that they ever write in at home. Is all about football and about football plans and football sessions. They probably things, they'll be sat at home and then all of a sudden they'll be popping things up like looking at practices and drills on YouTube or Facebook or wherever they want to look for all of those different things. They'll be looking at different forums. They'll be interacting with other coaches. They'll be talking to other coaches that are in the same leagues as everyone else too. They'll probably be on a separate WhatsApp group to every coach in the club too, at every different age group. Looking at things like, can we get pictures marked out? That's always a nightmare, isn't it, for a lot of clubs to be able to go and do that? Where's the goals? Is everything set up? Can we get new footballs? Can we get new this? We've moved up an age group. We don't need size 3 balls. We need size 4 balls. Making sure we've got all of those things. They look at things like funding. They'll go and have a look for sponsors. They'll do a lot of work outside of these things. So, look, I also put this all out, and let's just do a quick little segment again on some parents that have also wrote in. So Claire from Nottingham, she wrote in and just said that the coach stayed behind after training for 20 minutes just to help her son with his confidence on the ball. This sort of thing never gets seen unless you're there, but it made a huge difference to him. And look, this is what coaches do. They will do all of these things and they will help as many people as they can do because they feel good about doing it and they've got an interest in football. And remember, almost every grassroots coach that gets there, and there are some exceptions to this, they're there voluntary. They're not there for anything else. This is, a massive chunk out of their life, out of their week, out of their family time, out of everything else that goes all on football for everyone else's kids. But I'm sure that they all enjoy it, and I hope that all the people that turn up to those sessions do too. But James in Leicester, obviously local to us as well, must have put it on a local group as well. When my daughter was struggling with school, her coach noticed and spoke to her. That conversation changed her whole outlook. Football gave her somewhere that she felt she belonged. Well, do you know what? I see that quite a lot actually. And a bit of a story for me is that I spoke to another coach, and it was actually his wife that had told him. I might have told this story before, but I'll go over it again quickly. But basically, there was a girl in his team that wasn't great or anything like that, and he was thinking, "Shall I get rid of her?" And he was just talking to me about it. And yeah, his wife basically said, "You don't know anything about her life outside. Football might be her only release to anything. She might be having a bad time at home, bad time at school, bad time everywhere else. And the only thing she looks forward to every week is football on the night that he had his coaching sessions. And if you take that away from her, you've literally changed her whole life." And he looked at it, he thought about it, and we were just talking, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm never going to do that. I'm always going to keep everyone on." And I have the same values, really. I would always keep everyone on and try and keep as many people in there, even if they aren't going to be playing in games and they're coming to training only, or they are coming. Try and treat everyone equally because, grassroots football should be for everyone. But you do keep these comments coming in. So if you ever want to email in, then you can get me at gofootballpod@gmail.com. Just get me on that email. It'll come straight in. I will start posting on the social medias what the next few episodes are going to be. And that way you can message in much quicker rather than just seeing me posting on one of these. I think that might be a little bit quicker to be able to do. So, yeah, look, let's just have a look at some of the appreciation really that we should be able to give our coaches. So first thing, if anyone wants to help a coach out, just reply to them when they need it. Honestly, they are probably working, probably even at work, they're probably still picking their phones up and helping and deal with things. But if they are asking, is anyone available? Is anyone for this? Is anyone for that? Even if it's going to be a no, or I'm not sure, here's the reasons why. Well, you don't even need to give the reasons why, but, I'm not sure. We've got a few things on, may be able to do it, might not be able to do it. It massively helps a coach out because they are dealing with so many things all at the same time. So let's just do the quick little appreciation at the end of the show then. So thanks for coming back in to listen this week. It's always great to have you there as well. And again, if you do want to get hold of us, then just go to gofootballpod@gmail.com. It'll always come through to me. I can read those out, or I can even put them down as a bit of appreciation to the couple of the episodes that are also coming up there. So yeah, let's just go over what we've been talking about. So look, a massive appreciation really to grassroots coaches that are spending so much of their own time, chasing fixtures, washing kits sometimes, looking at paperwork, all of this all adds up, especially with WhatsApp messages. When they start hitting, honestly, it can go on all night long. So yeah, please make sure they feel a little bit valued from you too. And if you are a grassroots coach, send this to all your parents as well, and they will be able to understand how much extra stuff that you are doing. And it's not just you, or you're not just saying that you're doing all these things. There's so much extra things that you've got to fill in. Like I say, it's hours and hours per week. Over the year, it comes into weeks and weeks of work. And look, no one would go and work for their employer without overtime for nothing. Not the same as a grassroots coach, anyway. I think we're built a little bit different for all of that. And look, if you've got the chance to message in any of your stories about being a coach and the additional things that you do that maybe I've missed off, maybe I've not mentioned on this episode as well, then again, gofootballpod@gmail.com. Or you can also go to like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or on X. Go on any of those platforms too and just send a little message. Because it'd be great to hear from you and see what your thoughts are on grassroots coaches. Like I was saying, just treat your coaches nicely as well, because without a coach, there's no training sessions. No training sessions, there's no games, no team. Then, we're going to be struggling for all of the young footballers that want to become footballers or want to get better at football or need that release of football, because not every single footballer that is practicing at grassroots football wants to become an international England superstar or play for their country. Not every single player wants that. Some of them just need it just so they've got that little bit of release from something else. They're great role models. They're there to help. They do a great thing. And also, look, grassroots football, it is probably one of the cheapest activities for everything that you get out of there. You get in sessions during the week and at the weekend and everything else that goes along it. But, the amount of things that they can also get out of football is great. The teamwork, being able to communicate with friends and play and have enjoyment and all of those things, they're all going to be really good. And look, if you can send this on and hit share, that would be great. People can listen to this podcast and they can listen to Go Football Podcast everywhere. They can listen to it on Spotify, Amazon Music. We've got YouTube. We're on Castbox. We're in all of those things. But yeah, share it with your team. Put it into a WhatsApp group as well. And, that would be great. And I'd really appreciate it if you could do that. So until next time, keep supporting your coaches, keep making sure we're looking after them, appreciate all the extra hours they're putting in, not just for themselves and their own children, but everyone else's children too that are there. And let's see you next time when we talk all about grassroots football on the Go Football Podcast.